Continuing with the study of decimals, we're now multiplying decimals. You can see that I am multiplying decimal fractions. Hopefully you watched the intro video to the adding decimals, and if you did, you saw I used decimal fractions to show why the standard method for adding decimals works. I'm going to use decimal fractions to show why the standard method for multiplying decimals works as well, because it gets a little different. Adding is pretty simple. You just line up all the places according to place value, just like you did with addition and subtraction in elementary. Multiplication changes a little bit with decimals, because aligning the decimals can actually make it, and you probably have gone through a process where you've done this, but when numbers get big, that can actually make it more complicated and harder to keep track of. So I'm going to show you the one thing you really need to remember, and this will be reiterated in later videos. And I kept the place value chart up here just so you could see 1/10 is 0.1, 0.1. We know when we multiply fractions, the rule is pretty easy. 1 times 1, you multiply the numerators, you multiply the denominators. So that becomes 1/100. Now look this is the interesting thing, and the key part here is to see what happens with the decimal. Because we know that's 0.1, we know that's 0.1, because it'd be represented by a 1 in the tenths. Now the product is 1/100, so it's represented by a 1 in the hundredths column. And if there's a 1 in the hundredths column, then I have to have a place value holder here, because there's nothing there. So I have to show that there's nothing there. So the answer to this one's going to be 1/100ths, and that's how you say 1/100ths as a decimal. A lot of people are just going to say 0.01, but its real name is 1/100ths because it's in the hundredths column. It's 1 divided by 100, literally. So what you'll notice, hopefully, is that when I multiply 0.1 and 0.1, I end up with 0.01. So when you multiply these, if you were to multiply these two numbers in decimal form, you'd multiply 1 times 1, and then you count the places. There's 1, 2 total places behind the decimal, so you'd have to make sure it's 1, 2 to the right of the decimal, so 0.01. That's literally how it works. You're just kind of counting decimal places, and you'll see that reiterated over and over again in the coming videos, so you'll have it down. The purpose of this video, again, is just to really show you why that works. Now, nothing changes. Say I throw a few numbers up here, 3/10, and let's put a 5 there. 5/10 would be 15/100. So 0.3 times 0.5 would be 15/100. Now the second place when you're writing a decimal goes with the name, so the 5 would be there. So we now have a 1 to put in this column, so it would be 1.15. So the answer is 0.15, and is read 15/100. Hopefully you've had a lot of practice with naming and citing decimal numbers this way. If you have, it's pretty straightforward here. So when I multiply 0.3 times 0.5 using the standard method, which is what you're going to see, what you're going to use from now on, because again, this works, but to a point, and when these numbers get bigger, the denominator is no longer 10. You have to create common denominators. It gets really messy, so you need a simpler way to do it. We know this easily. 5 times 3 is 15. And then you count, I have 1, 2 decimal places, so the answer is 0.15. Again, the standard method is a little more complicated than that, but you'll see that in the upcoming videos. I just wanted to show you in this one why it works. Now let's increase this 10 and call it 100. We'll leave this the same. So 3 times 5 is still 15. 10 times 100 is now 1,000. So we're into the thousandths place with this last number. So it's 15/1000ths. So 0.3 times, and this is 0.05. See, because it's 5/100ths, so it's represented by a 5 there, and I'd need a 0 placeholder here, equals 15/1000ths. So where does the decimal go? Well, the last number said it goes with the appropriate column, so 15/1000ths, the 5 would be there, 1 takes that place, there's nothing there, so it's 0.015. 15/1000ths, that's 15/1000ths as a decimal. You name it according to the place that it's in. Again, hopefully you've had practice with this. So as a standard method now, I have 0.05 times 0.3, and I'm not going to worry about lining up decimals. Again, you may have gone through that process, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, but for our processes, we're going to skip that part and just use the rule, knowing that we've proved it works. You should be able to prove something works in math always. So multiplication, 3 times 5 is 15. I mean, I could do 5, since that's a 0, carry the 1 if I want to. It's going to end up being 15. And then we're done, but I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places now, so I got to go 1, 2, 3, so that there are 3 total decimal places in my answer. And the way they'll teach you to do it probably is simply to count. When I write down the 15 here, because 3 times 5 is 15, I know I need 1, 2, 3. The easiest way to do it without making a mistake is starting here and go 1, 2, 3, and then where I don't have a number, I put a 0 as a placeholder, because there is my decimal. And beyond the decimals, I have to have zeros as placeholders if there's nothing there. Anyway, quite a bit going on there. Hopefully you have a good level of understanding where you were able to get this. If not, work through it with your teacher a little bit more. I think you'll understand. Again, from this point on, you're going to go straight into a standard method, which will be really quick, and I think you'll enjoy working with decimals.